can see the plans, right?
We get very thorough
Okay.
explanations ahead of time.
All right.
And also there'll be, if you put them on the table, you'll see.
Perfect. Thank you.
Ian will get those and photos.
Okay.
Again, just make sure the microphone is on.
There we go. Can you hear me? Alrighty. Hello, I'm Megan O'Donnell. I'm the homeowner for 206 Walnut. So we are hoping to make some revisions to the back part of our home. Most of what we're going to talk about tonight is actually not visible from the street, with the exception of the right side of the house, which is pretty prominent. Our home is quite unique in that it's one of only two of the kind left in the neighborhood. And it's my understanding, I think it was a different architectural team that actually worked on the design of our house. So it's kind of stands out from the rest of the homes in the neighborhood and has a very unique roof line, very complicated roof line. We're also very fortunate in that we have most of the original windows, which has actually helped inform some of our design selections, as you'll see in the plans that we have. So what you see here is kind of a high-level drawing of the existing right side of our home, and most of what we're going to be talking about kind of concentrates in this space right here, in particular this last 10 feet of the home. We have several different roof lines off the back, but they're quite low, and the interior height of the ceiling in that part of the house is actually lower than my height, so it makes it quite complicated in using the space. It's my understanding in the original floor plan for the home, it was actually labeled as a shed, and somewhere along the line the kitchen was moved into that space. So what we'd like to do is reconstruct that part of the home, staying within the existing footprint. We're not extending, but reconstruct it so that we can raise the roof line so that we have a consistent ceiling height throughout the first floor, and open up a few things on the interior. So it'll change what you see here into this view down below, which is just kind of raising that angle so that it's consistent. This is difficult to do. Consistent with the front part of the house. All of the siding, the trim, that sort of crown molding effect that we have on the front of the house would be consistent coming across to the back. And the nice thing that it does is it opens up some space on the inside so that we can also change some of the windows on the side of the house. And in particular, these two will be new, and we've managed to figure it out so that we can match them to what you see in the original part of the house up here in the front. So same dimension and style and look and feel and all of that. So it provides a bit more of a cohesive, in my mind at least, look to the windows as opposed to what we have currently, which is kind of this staggered effect of three different types of windows of different sizes. We also have a deck right now on the right side of the house that kind of awkwardly sits off the side. It's very visible from the street, kind of prominent. Our goal would be to move that around the back so it's a little more discreet. It would keep the entrance more or less the same, but the main part of the deck would no longer be visible off the front. In terms of changes to the back, we have I think it's called a hipped roof, which matches the existing roof line on this bump out over here. That again raises the height, and then we'd be putting in new doors and windows off of the back to allow for an exit out to that new deck area. And then coming around to the right side, most of this kind of stays the same. The only difference would be these windows that you see here. These would be new as well. Do you guys need to see the site plan as well, or is that sufficient in terms of the changes? Yeah.
Is there a picture of the back as it exists now?
No, we don't. We didn't do an elevation of that.
It's interesting because with the other, it looks like it was created with AI, creating the fields and the meadows behind the house. I know Runnymede, or Audubon, well enough to know there are no such fields and meadows behind the house, but it looks phenomenal. Oh. But I guess my first question is the word preposed as opposed to proposed. And I Googled it actually to see if I've missed something in my life. Are you saying proposed?
Yes, I am.
Because there were 2 pages of preposed, and I thought, Terry, you're going insane. And then I Googled it, and there was no preposed, so I assumed it was just that, but I wanted to make sure that I was not missing something in architectural terms, so I'm trying to learn. I think the side window being changed to look, and that's going to be the new,
Yes.
is it not? I like that idea very much. To me, that's an improved look. And I don't know how you all feel.
It looks great.
I think it's totally in scale. It fits with what was there. It's not changing the scale of the roof line or the heights to any great disturbance of what was there before.
Yeah. It's an improvement.
Okay, good.
Looks great.
Motion to approve a certificate of appropriation, or appropriateness.
Second?
Second, third.
Wall. The next property is Audubon Avenue. 401 Audubon, in which we have been told it's a 3-car, not 2-car garage, so you need not worry about that. But I was amazed. Has artificial intelligence been used to create the backdrop?
Well, it was just intelligence. It wasn't artificial.
I think it's phenomenal. I love it.
Yeah, I mean, the software programs have come a long way, so we just use a rendering program. It's just makes it easier for everybody to understand what they're getting, including yourselves and the client, so. Anyway, my name's Tim Lucci. I'm a principal at Peter Zimmerman Architects. I'm here representing our clients, the owners of 401 Audubon Avenue. The property is in the South Wayne Historic District, and I didn't get any good pictures of the surrounding houses because there's just a lot of trees in the way, so I couldn't get any good pictures, but I'm sure you're familiar with that area.
And those meadows aren't there?
No meadows, yeah.
I
No
kind of
more.
drove by the houses today, and I didn't have a problem seeing them or the garages that were behind them.
Okay, okay.
So I'm not sure how you, and then there's no leaves on the trees, so the houses should be way more visible.
Okay.
But that's just my thought.
Yeah, we might have been out there at an earlier time. Maybe I was out there during the summer. I can't remember. Well, let me just start on page 1. It'll be easier just to flip through each page. I don't know if you can zoom in on that. Can you zoom in?
We know it's been 700 days since there's been snow. So your pictures, your original pictures were taken with snow,
Right.
and it's been
Well,
about
maybe-
700 days since we
Okay.
had measured
I can submit some
snow.
pictures if we need to. I think I was probably on Google Maps trying to get some snapshots of
It's okay.
the neighbor's house, but irregardless. The plan on the left side is the existing survey that was done. You can see the footprint of the main house, and then in the rear of the property, there's the existing carriage house. Somewhere probably in the 50s, there was a little addition put on the back of the house right here, and then from that point toward the back of the house is 90% of the new construction. On the right side, this is the proposed new site plan. We're maintaining the driveway and the access to the rear carriage house is sort of limited with, we're leaving the existing driveway as much as possible, and then we're building a new 3-car garage behind the house. That old 1950s addition we're proposing to demolish and tear down. In that space right now, there's a small mudroom, and part of this kitchen is in that space as well. It's not adequate for the family that lives there today. So as many of these houses in this area, we've been tasked with adding larger kitchen, to more connection to a family room and larger sort of mudroom family entryway. So that's what we're doing here with a little bit of a larger kitchen, a connection piece, which is closets, a secondary stair hole to the second floor, and sort of cubbies and mudroom and storage space, another powder room in the rear of the house, and then which is attaches to a 3-car garage.
What year was the house built?
I'm sorry?
What year was the house built?
I want to say early 1900s,
Well, we,
1920 maybe?
yeah, it was
Yeah.
definitely after 1900,
Yeah,
but I'm guessing between 1910 and 1925.
yeah,
But-
that's right.
This is the thing that,
Well, I have a map here from 1920 where the house is on the map.
Okay,
So it was somewhere between 1900 and 1920.
1920, okay,
And the carriage house at that time was a stable.
yeah. Not much has been done to the carriage house. It's open now. We're proposing to make it into sort of a quasi pool house. So it's going to open up to the pool. There is a lot of site work that's going on here. Much of the work that we're doing is indecipherable from the current view of the street. So the only thing they can really see from the street that we're doing is we're adding a second floor to this piece over here. This is currently a sunroom, sort of a sitting room, and above it, we're going to put part of the primary suite. It's going to be their primary closet. So these areas on the left, this is the existing house. The areas in red are the areas that'll be either totally demolished or have some renovation involved. And then the areas over here are the new areas. So new kitchen area with family dining, services in between the kitchen and the garage.
I have a question, but this involves zoning. Is the zoning clearance done, I know it's done separately, we don't deal with the zoning setbacks, but is this taking,
So when the application is made, there's 2 avenues. One will be through the engineering department for the grading permit, and at that time, zoning, setbacks, impervious coverage calculations, lot area calculations, all those things will be looked at that time.
that's what I thought.
Simultaneously, we can review architectural plans for code compliance, do our review, and have that aspect completed. We cannot issue permits until the grading permit has been obtained. So,
That was
there's an avenue to check all of that.
Yeah. Radnor's been particularly, I think, holds the line on the zoning setbacks and
Yeah.
that sort of thing within your,
Correct. So this
And I just-
dotted line in here is the current building setbacks around the property. It's much harder to see on this one, but right along here, this lighter dotted line is the building setback in the rear yard. We're coming up to that building setback. So yeah, we're in compliance there. We're also in compliance with the impervious. Even with obviously you see they're doing a lot of site work, new plantings around the house, some site walls, swimming pool.
How tall is the site wall?
This one here, 24 inches.
2 feet.
Yeah.
And the grade from the street to the wall is how high?
The grade from this,
So if a car was driving by and saw the extended house out that long, how out of scale would it be? How much would they see of the
If you're standing on the
house?
street, up to the site wall, it's 9 feet,
Okay,
and then the site wall is another 2 feet.
okay. So if you're 5 foot tall, then it's 11 foot on your sight line. Or not, 6 feet on your sight line,
Yeah.
or the first floor.
Yeah.
Just trying to get a sense of how it's gonna look from the street.
Right. I hope that shows in some of the renderings we did.
The picture that, with the snow in it, existing front view is from the opposite side of where the construction's gonna take place. And the garage couldn't be seen at all from that view. Do you have a view from the other side of where the construction's gonna take place? The proposed view with the meadows is from the same side as the picture, but that's not the side with the driveway and the existing building, which sticks out behind it somewhat, a little bit, but not a lot.
Yeah, so this is.
Do you
the-
have a rendering from the other side where we would see how that addition would affect the historic perspective
Sure.
and the scale?
So that's the existing. That's the angle you're looking for.
Okay.
So maybe you can zoom out now. We're getting bigger.
Like a second house.
Pardon me?
It looks like a second house been built.
It's a garage. Matches all the cornice work of the existing house, neoclassical style. It's a stone to match the existing house. It complies with the height restrictions of the building, attaches to the main house. Materials and windows all match the existing house as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
I have another question. Did you consider the development patterns of the time for historic consistency? The house next door, their stable was turned into a two-car garage but detached. And the house on the other side has a detached garage. The large house across the street has a detached garage. This would be the only attached garage and not in kind of the pattern of development for that existing historical era.
I'm going to have to disagree with that in a sense, because I know you're right technically, but there is a variety of ages in that street, and consequently, a variety of houses. The earliest were built, and the most, the people with a great deal of wealth had separate carriage houses and horses and that sort of thing. But there is enough diversity that I don't think that you could be held on that alone, quite frankly, to trying to match the neighborhood. This is clearly the home, and has been from its inception, the home of a very wealthy person. I think, quite frankly, looking at that picture, the one on the right, they've done a really phenomenal job carrying through the lines of the original house. In other words, it is not a jarring contemporary 1950s or 60s.
I'm not in any
Variant.
disagreement with materials or style. It's size and scale and pattern. And there's a carriage house that exists now that has a driveway going to it that's being used for something else, which is the reason for the attached garage.
We are maintaining the carriage house. It is a separate structure, so that sense of that feeling, we are enlarging the house. I agree with you. We are attaching to the existing house, but we still are maintaining that sort of space that you're looking for between an outbuilding and a main house, which is sort of, I don't want to say prominent in the area, but exists in that area. So I think you still get that same sort of feeling with that. And creating that sort of courtyard space in front of leaving that space in front of the carriage house for where the pool is going to be open to landscape, so you can still see through the site. I think that's a plus as well, rather than adding on that side of the building, tucking everything in the back of the building, so you can sort of primarily not disrupting the front facade of the house or either side of the house. Again, we're adding sort of site walls to sort of block the garage doors a little bit, so you're not looking back in there. We're trying to do as much as we can to sort of maintain sort of the original scale and structure of the main house. Let me see if I have elevations, actually. This is a good shot here, so you can see here what's existing. Okay. Which is what we're removing. And here, as we're,
So that picture is of the house and the two-story next to it, with the 3 windows and 2 windows, not the setback structure and not the garage.
that's right. So this elevation is the right side elevation, which is the existing house is above. You see here, so that's where we're removing. And then we're adding this stone mass and then the connector to the garage and the garage. But as we're doing that, we're dropping down the scale, but carrying the materials, the cornice work, and the window rhythms as it goes back.
Yeah, well, I agree that what you're doing is what you're doing. It's just the scale of the difference in the view seems out of historical proportion for me. But that's just me. Compared to the other houses in the neighborhood.
I mean, one of the things you're sort of up against in this day and age is not only lifestyle, right? I mean, these kitchens are much bigger. Families, the kids are doing homeworks in their kitchens now, so you want a big sort of island. You want some connection to be able to sort of interact with your other family members in that space. You want to, everybody's hanging out in the kitchen for parties, so the kitchens are getting a little bigger. And additionally, cars are bigger. So we used to do garage doors that would be 7 feet wide, 8 feet wide by 7.5 feet tall. Minimum today is 9 feet wide, 8 foot tall. SUVs are big. They're 20, 18, 19 feet long. So the garages are bigger. So we're fighting that a little bit for sure. I agree with you there. The old carriage doors, and they were big, but the garage doors were much smaller back then. So we're sort of fighting that, and I think that's probably what you're seeing there. You're looking at 3 9-foot.
From the scale issue, that hasn't. What do you feel about that? Does it seem in scale to you?
It does. I mean, well, I've been doing it for a while, so I've seen it built, and it looks. You can make it look good. You bring the cornice work down as far as possible. You try to minimize the ceiling height in the garage to, you have a 8-foot, 7'6" door, 8'6" ceiling height. It's the lowest you can go. You can't put an 8-foot
What's the
ceiling.
height of the roof line on the garage?
This is probably at the eave, at the cornice line, you mean? Or the
Well,
top
at
of
the
the roof?
peak. If we're trying to get it into scale so that it looks smaller than the rest of the house, as opposed to almost the same size as the rest of the house,
Yeah.
based on the view.
Right.
What's the peak? It's within the height, I agree.
Yeah.
It's not that much less than the height of the addition as it shows there. Maybe, I can't tell. I'm just asking the question.
I mean, you have to also consider the topography increases in the back of as you go up into the property. So we're probably maybe 3 feet higher back there. So the floor of the garage is higher than the front of the house. So that pushes everything up, pushes the roof up. And you can see the sort of the slope as it goes here. That's probably 3-foot slope up here. So I would say this, I don't have a scale on me now, what the height of that is. It's probably maybe 25 to 28 feet, if I had to guess.
and the height of the door is 9. So there's a
The
lot
height of this door is
difference.
8 feet, it's 9 foot wide by 8 foot tall.
Okay, so if you're going.
Well, actually, it's 7 foot 6 tall. This door is 7, these doors are 9 foot wide, 7, 6 tall. That's our standard garage door now.
Okay,
Yeah.
but that's double that at least. So we're talking 22 feet, 23 feet?
Yeah, right. That's what I thought, 25. 22, 25 probably.
Okay.
If I could offer, if, even if it was feasible to have a detached structure there, we measure, detached structures, accessory structures can be 20 feet height, but that is to the midspan of the rafter. So we get this question a lot, height-wise, you know, we'll see a peak of, and that's an average around with the grade, so we'll see a peak that's, you know, maybe 26, 27 feet, but the average comes out to 20, because we're not measuring to the peak, we're measuring to the midspan. So in this scenario here, because of the grade elevation and, you know, the fact that it is attached, you know, an attached addition, not an accessory structure, I don't think there'd be really any difference in height if it was to change. I think you'd still have the same height visually, because it's a peaked structure and because of the elevation.
Okay.
Right, so they're taking
You've seen
that-
the house on Doyle Road.
They're taking the midpoint of this piece here as your building height to average grade around the house.
Correct.
Right, so not the ridge line.
Okay.
It's going to be a very, very large house. The house fortunately justifies it. In other words,
It is an impressive house. I mean, it has a presence on the street. It's one of the nicest ones on that street.
oh, it has to be. But I don't know if you're familiar with Conestoga and Doyle and the house that was built there this year, but it looks from the front, it looks like the house in the Grant Wood picture with the man and the farmer with the pitchfork and his wife next to him. And then the house just goes on and on and on
Yeah.
along this side and takes up, fortunately, it has the lowest zoning code. I think it's a 5, isn't it?
It's outside the historic district.
Doyle Road and
I
Conestoga.
believe in that district, they are allowed, I think it's almost 40% lot coverage.
Infinitely the
Yeah,
largest house on the street.
that project went to the very
Yeah,
limits of
but in
what
no
was-
way does it match
allowed.
anything that's been built in that section. I mean, you could go for blocks and blocks and not find anything remotely close. Not only that, but it takes up the entire lot. I mean, I think the lot is 10,000 feet or less. This house will handle this addition, I think, and the density is fairly, you know, you're not going to find on Audubon, Runnymede, there's a variety. The variety started about 1900, but still, it's enough variety, I think, to handle this size house.
Agreed.
So
I think
I'm-
it could
my-
as well.
I'm going to vote for or suggest or ask for a certificate of appropriateness. I haven't been able to say it all night, and I don't know how you all feel.
I'd like to see the neighbors' houses and how it fits in with those, because this doesn't seem to match, and I feel like it's out of scale, and I don't know whether the detached and turn of the house was considered, or what, and/or reuse of the carriage house as a garage, and keeping the pattern of development similar to what the neighbors have that were built at the same time. Because the two houses in the map from 1920, do I bring these down to put them on? or,
You can, and I'd just like to,
or is that not usual? But the two maps that I have from
no,
20
you
and
can show the
37
maps. I just want to narrow the focus of,
But there's three houses that existed in 1920 when this house was there, and they're both the neighboring houses.
I understand, I just have to take a moment to narrow our focus. When we really can't discuss the use of the structures on the property. You know, we have to stay within the lane of the proposed work and the proposed addition.
Okay.
And just narrow our focus with that.
Fair
You
enough.
know, if the other structure is being retrofitted into a pool house or something like that, we can look at the elements of that and see the architecture and the scale, but I don't think the size of that is changing.
No,
You're just going to address the outside of it and do some work to the
mostly
inside.
inside, yeah.
So so we'll have to stay, in our focus of that. But I just wanted to kind of,
Okay.
before we kind of went a little sideways there, that's all.
Fair enough. Sorry. I'm new at this.
So am I. I thought that it was an awfully large addition as well relative to the house, but then when I drove by and I tried to imagine looking down that side, the right side property area, it seemed like it would be distant enough that it wouldn't bother me. I mean, the elevation that you have that shows it,
Sure.
right on it enlarges the impact of it, but from the street, I didn't think it would be
Number
bad.
18, I think it is. Or 12.
Yeah. And that's even up a little, obviously, that's much
That's not from the
closer than
street. I mean, that's from their
Right.
front of their,
That's what convinced me
yeah.
it could accommodate that big a mass, but I agree, it's an awfully large addition.
and we're standing here.
Yes.
I'll repropose.
I mean, I mean, you look at the property, right? So putting the garage in a different location, for instance, you're sort of using a lot of their best part of their land. Right now, it's where they're going to do their outdoor living, where we're proposing to put the swimming pool, we're proposing to put the outdoors terraces, we're proposing to put sort of the play area for the kids. And you're softening all that rather than putting pavement there, ripping out a lot of pavement that's back by that carriage house, and pushing it to this new garage to the side of the property, the most unusable part of the property, so they can use take advantage of the views, take advantage of the lawn that really is on the left side of their left side of their property. So most of all their property is over here.
But to follow with Andy, the use is not what we're talking about, it's the building and the structure, right?
Correct. It's the appearance and does it fit within the existing structure?
Historic nature of the
And historic
neighborhood.
nature of the structure. So if it looks right and has the characteristics that are correct for that, we can't really concern ourselves with the use.
Right.
So may I repropose
Certainly.
that we recommend a certificate of appropriateness? Does anyone, would,
I would say aye.
okay, all together?
Does it have to be unanimous? I
Well,
don't know the rules. Does it have to be unanimous?
it doesn't have to be unanimous.
No.
2-1. I don't think it's appropriate.
Okay, well then, it may be passed based on a 2-to-1 margin.
Thank you. Thank you.
And
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
the last thing that is normally proposed is there's one person sitting in the audience who hasn't spoken. Okay, did you, if you had any, objection? No, I think it was great. Okay. Okay. I think you did a very good job of matching the period. We had to approve one, it was probably our last meeting, where the house was just, like turning a, oh my gosh, well, it was like dealing with the,
Thank you, Ian.
Are we gonna adjourn?
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
All in favor, aye? Thank you, Andy.
Thank you, everybody.
anyway, it was an